Hey, hey.
Tobago updates.
Na 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 na.
Good morning, Tobago.
Na 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 na.
Wake up with Kandace.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates Television. Yes, folks, television, you heard it correct. We are available now on channel 102 on Amplia. So please get connected to see all our content coming to you. Now, joining us online is the Assemblyman for Roxborough Argyle, Mr. Watson Duke. Good morning and welcome to you, sir. How are you doing?
Hey, great morning, Tobago updates, Tobago people. Blessed love, man. Blessed love.
Loving the
To be
energy
here.
this morning, Mr. Duke.
Yeah. So
All
what's
right.
up? What's up? What's up? What's
Mr.
up?
Sorry about that.
I say, what's up today?
Well, the sun is shining on Tobago, and we are looking forward to a very interesting week. Now, Mr. Duke, now you had your walk yesterday, your march from Kings Bay to Roxborough yesterday, and did it go as you planned?
Exactly. I mean, you could see me dancing. I mean, I enjoyed myself. The people, they enjoy themselves. I mean, whatever I do, I base it on statistics, hardcore facts. I'm not a man carried by emotions or just someone whispering into my ear. I really base it on hardcore facts. I could tell you the truth that yesterday was a hallmark for Tobago East insofar as labor is concerned.
Why do you say that?
Ne- Never before in the history of Tobago was there ever a labor march in Tobago East. As a matter of fact, the first time labor came to Tobago in March, it was I, as the president of NATUC, invited all of the labor unions to come to Tobago in March. And they did that 2 years back to back a few years ago when I was the president of the National Trade Union Center. So I pride Tobago's involvement in labor to be very critical. And what I did yesterday was something quite new. I went to the Tobago East, particularly Dalafort to Roxborough, which is my district, and we did something that awakened the senses of the people. And now they are eagerly looking forward to next year March. I want to keep it up. I want to maintain it because you know the Belmana riots that took place in 1876, May 1st to May 5th, took place because of labor issues arising out of the plantation, where workers felt to themselves that they were not being treated justly. They will be given minimal, less than minimum wage. And also, when they collected their money, they had to pay it back for groceries and doctors and living expenses. So they were arguing and protesting. And then came down a white man by the name of Belmana from the police station to break up the local protest. And he fired a shot and killed a woman, and that angered the people. They immediately asked for the arrest and the death penalty for Belmana. They brought him to the Roxborough court, which remain in shambles today because of the government that we have currently. But I'll get to that just now. Right? It's in shambles, it's disrepair, there's no court going on there. But in 1876, that courthouse was alive. And in 1876, when they brought Belmana into the courtroom to be charged, the crowd gathered outside in the numbers, and they demanded justice, blood for blood. The magistrate then said, let's take him to the High Court in Scarborough. And when they were about to bring him out of the house, the crowd grabbed him and they beat him to a pulp. He ended up in the hospital and died a few days after. But not just did they beat him, they began to burn and loot and destroy the entire estate of Roxborough. It was so intense that they had to send a ship that was going to Grenada to inform the naval fleet, the British naval fleet, which was resident to Barbados, to come. That came some 5 days later and found Tobago under full siege of the workers. It started in Roxborough. May I dare say to you that when the revolution, this political revolution to take Tobago away from the PNM stronghold started, it started in Roxborough, right at the boatyard where I started my campaign in 2015, right at the boatyard where I concluded my speech yesterday. So Roxborough is very significant significant in the history and development of Tobago, and may I say even Trinidad and the wider Caribbean. Roxborough
Certainly.
has a lot of labor issues. So it was a significant day, a hallmark day. Took me a long while, but I had to justify it.
Now, we saw that there was not that many people on the march. Was the numbers anything that you expected?
Well, I don't expect numbers anymore because I tell you something. The world has changed. People sometimes are not physically present, but they're present online. And I could tell you, my march would have attracted 36,000 persons viewing it, as opposed to the large march at Faizabad, which would have attracted about just 2,000 persons viewing it. And so when you look at my march, it was viewed more by more persons than the usual Labor Day march in Faizabad that have all the unions. So did I receive the type of response I expected? Yes, I did expect the response. I did get the response I wanted. Did I announce myself as being present in Tobago? Yes, I did announce myself. Tobago has woken up today and they're talking about what's due, the march, and whether or not, you know what I mean, how his chances are, who love him, who hate him. That's life. I engage that type of dialogue on a daily basis. So, yes, I'm happy with the march. I'm happy with the outcome. I'm happy with the participants. They showed bravery, they showed grit, they showed focus as they alone can exercise and demonstrate.
All right, great. Now, I want to talk a little bit about that strategy. Mr. Duke, you are a man that's known for your strategy, even though that people may not necessarily understand it. You are someone that sometimes thinks about some of these things, thinks critically about some of these things before you do them. Let me talk a little bit about the strategy behind, just starting that match in Roxborough. I know you said it's in some way significant to you because it's where you started your political campaign in 2015 as an independent candidate. So is it that you're almost like presenting yourself again to the people?
Well, a little more than that. Kings Bay was the place where they had the last slave plantation. My forefathers, the Dukes, they were overseers on that plantation, and it was the last place where a person got flogged in Tobago on the Kingsway plantation. So it's important for us to start there. However, the place of the most profound riot in Tobago was in Roxborough. And so it was also important that I end there and I remind the people of Tobago and I resuscitate within them that spirit of revolution. Because we are on a political revolution to change the political landscape of this country. I dare to say to you that both the PNM and the UNC, they are outdated. They have no traction on the ground. They are only being financed by the big hefes, which will soon recognize that they are financing a dead horse, a horse that cannot compete, because they can only get so much. Only so much persons are attracted to those parties. And day by day, the grassroots are recognizing they are unrepresented. Watson Solomon Duke, leader and founder of the PDP, is the only person who's representing the grassroots in Trinidad and Tobago. And I dare say, while I represent all, my laser focus is on those at the bottom of our society. We must lift those persons higher. So, was it an introduction? Yes, well, a reintroduction to those things that we held dear in 2015. Those things remain unchecked, and we must continue focusing on those targets until we reach where we aspire to reach, where the ground is lifted and everyone is lifted.
Now, of course, it was also a Labor Day march. And as you said earlier, it was to advocate for certain issues, especially with salaries and so on, a concern for public servants. Now, you, as during your time as president of the PSA, you did march several times. You brought that Labor Day march several times to Tobago. Now, we see as the leadership has changed, they have gone back to keeping those marches in Trinidad. What does that say to public servants here in Tobago?
Right, it doesn't say much to them, right? I mean, different leaders lead differently. I'm a Tobagoan in my heart and my soul. I'm a man for the forgotten, a man for the marginalized. And wherever there are forgotten or marginalized people, be it in Tobago, in Trinidad, I will show up. I believe in the resuscitation of life. I believe in impregnating person with a kind of inspiration that turns them on and they never switch off. So I will always try to do that which is not done and do it to lift the people up. But so far as public servants are concerned in this country, I will leave that for my colleague who is now the president of the PSA. I don't believe in dabbling in business that doesn't directly concern me. However, I must confess that I miss the PSA. I miss those days. I'm heart struck when
Why
I
do you
think about
miss? What about
you.
those days that you miss?
Well, it was a level of excitement. To represent people gives me excitement, right? I love to represent people, especially the forgotten, the forlorn, the fatigued people. I want to represent those people. And when I came to them, there was a light of hope on their face. That when I said, hey, we're doing this, that was it. No question asked. That was it. I've led some of the largest marches in this country as a single man. I don't think that, I don't hate to hit it, but I think that if we put myself and Butler side by side, there's going to be a difficulty in finding out who did more. Because in my time, I've stopped the government bill while it was in the parliament. I put so much persons around the Red House that the Prime Minister Patrick Manning called me and said, Watson, I never knew he had my number. He called me, said, Watson Duke, what do you want? I said, you got to talk to us. He spoke to us. We shut down the customs, immigration, all of these places have brought Port of Spain to its knees as a trade unionist. I paid for it. I was maligned, charged, all different kind of stuff for it, even placed on sedition charges. But it's par for the cause. And I'm not angry about anything that I've inherited because of my militant and advocacy in the trade union. I relish everything, the good and the bad, and accept it as part of my growing exercise, part of my development. But I do miss the days when I could go inside and bang on the table. What with money now?
All
I
right,
love
Mr.
that.
All right, Mr. Duke. Well, we're not done with our conversation, but we have to take a quick break. So please don't go anywhere,
Please.
viewers. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this.
Thank you.
Yeah, hey,
Tobago updates.
na 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 na.
Good morning, Tobago.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are continuing our conversation with Assemblyman for Roxborough Argyle, Watson Duke, as well as the political leader and founder of the Progressive Democratic Patriots. All right, so Mr. Duke, now I want to get into just some of the things that came out of a group of concerned citizens here in Tobago, and that was the idea that because there's a police investigation as a result of this audio tape out there in the space, that the administration should step down while that investigation is going on. What are your opinions on this?
Well, I think I share similar thoughts on the matter. The person who holds himself out as the chief secretary must understand that he's the face of the executive of Tobago, a quasi government. It's not a government, but a quasi government. And therefore, he has to give the international community the opportunity to see Tobago in a pure and pristine manner. What he has been tried for in the public eyes is a kind of a misbehavior. It's a kind of act that he himself admitted to. He himself admitted to planning it, but not executing it. And but in the voice note, you hear him saying, "Yeah, we get some of them in already. Some of them in already." So he will have to explain that to the popo, to the police. He will have to explain that to the public, and they call names on the thing. Also, we don't know who that person is, but certainly there's a particular name who is quite known in the public space that carries that. So he should do the honorable thing and step aside as the deputy chief secretary. When he accused me of rogue behavior and trying to get him to operate outside of the law, when I asked him to feed 27 people, 26 people in New York. I said, these people need to be fed. Could you please call a shot? Talk to the executive. Let's get someone to feed these people now. Because people is at the center of what I do. I was quite shocked to learn that he took it seriously to the point where he wanted me out and was challenging me to come and fight him and see who has more people than him. And I was quite taken aback. And I said, this can't augur well for Tobago. And I simply removed myself from the executive, from under his executive control, because I cannot be led by someone who holds those bad ideals. And I removed myself. I did the honorable thing and quarrel and I removed myself. He should remove himself also because Tobago now is now questioning his judgment. There are thousands of youth in Tobago who cannot be employed, but he's on a tape stating and planning to employ persons to spread propaganda. Since when spreading propaganda, false information, that is, since when spreading false information is a requisite to be employed in a government, that is wrong and it should be seen as wrong.
Now,
You should
Mr.
resign.
Duke, you were accused of being the person to possibly leak this audio clip, and it was said that this discussion took place during an executive council meeting or a strategic meeting in regards to about that happened about a year ago. What I mean, can I get your response to that?
Well, frankly, Watson Solomon Duke did not leak any tape whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I did not even know that conversation existed. I never knew of it. I was totally unaware of it. And he cannot find me participating in such a conversation. Such a conversation, I will shut it down openly and defiantly and loudly, and I will not hesitate. I will bring it to the public attention immediately. I've done more with less than that. Imagine I walk away from my job for 26 person who was not fed. You can imagine if he had threatened to employ persons to spread false information to the denial of persons who are qualified and looking for employment, I would have mashed up the place. I would have turned tables over, make a scene, and let them know I was not employed to do that folly. So me leaking tape, Duke ain't no sneaky man. I ain't no tanty man. I'm not his friends. Duke is a real hardback man. I will face the bull head on. Head on. And I want to read my lips. I'm not bluffing with that. I will face the music head on. I'm a man. I'm not tanty man. Hiding and leak tape. Me no coward. And more than that, let's say, right, someone leaks the tape, not me, but someone else within his company leaked the tape. What concern is that to him? While on the campaign trail, he was talking about a whistleblower, some whistleblower legislation or policy. So is he now angry that someone blew the whistle? Whosoever that person is, that person should be given a medal of honor. That person exposed his nastiness, his betrayal of the public purse. He is hiring people to spread false information. He said that. And in the tape, he said they hired some of them already. There's a few more they want.
Now, Mr. Duke, you were also accused of colluding with the PNM. Are you in talks with that party, with the PNM party, towards opposing the Fali Augustine-led administration?
I'm not in talks with the PM to oppose Falia Gusting administration. I talk to the PM all the time. I talk to the UNC all the time. I'm a politician. That is what politicians do for a living. They have to have conversations. But do we talk on any nefarious activities? No, 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 no. The PNM, they are my enemy as well as the UNC, but we have conversation from time to time. I do not hate Dr. Rowley, He's a miserable man, very miserable, but I do not hate him. As a matter of fact, I want to create a society in which Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley is not discriminated against because of his bad past and the amount of people he annoyed. I want to ensure that he's properly protected because he did so while he was a politician. And as a politician, it's what we call civil war, right? It's an academic war, I should say, where we war against each other. We say things that are not nice at times. We act in a manner that's quite belligerent at times. But at the end of the day, we do it to present ourselves as strong and to represent the ideals that we have. And so I talk to the UNC, I talk to the PNM. I don't have a problem in that. But Do I have my principles? Yes, I have my principles. Are those principles worth dying for? Yes. I said to people already, do not expect me to fight for the Augusti. No, it's a job of the pay them to do so. But while I'm in Tobago and while I'm there, I will continue to call sin by its right name, Fali Augusta.
Now, Mr. Duke, what are your opinions or what is your take on the situation where we do not have a chief administrator right now in the assembly and the predicament it puts the business of assembly in as a result? I'm pretty sure you've heard by now the explanation provided by the Prime Minister. We heard a little bit from the Chief Secretary on Friday. I mean, how are you, what are your reactions to this?
I think both of them are playing a handsy pansy kind of game, and I'm not sure what's going on there. But I can say to you, no business can take place in Tobago without Tobago House of Assembly without a chief administrator. A chief administrator is part of the Trinidad and Tobago Republican Constitution. It means that if you do not have a chief administrator, it's as serious as not having a chief secretary. Could the Tobago House of Assembly run without a chief secretary? No. Could the Tobago House of Assembly run without a chief administrator? No. So all acts committed without a chief administrator is null, void, and no effect. And that's the gospel truth. I want to challenge you to ask a lawyer that. Ask a lawyer that's a creature of the Constitution. As a chief administrator. All right?
Now, Mr. Duke, I mean, of course, you are very knowledgeable about the public service and how it operates. And in the situation where the Public Service Commission, there's an accusation that the Public Service Commission was not properly constituted because, of course, we saw just last Monday that a deputy commissioner was, a deputy service commissioner, chairman of the Deputy Service Commission was appointed. What are your opinions on even that situation that sort of kind of stymied the process to fill the gap or to fill the vacancy after the original candidate had to be taken off the job?
Again, these things are simple administrative issues, but the Prime Minister and the so-called Chief Secretary, they're playing a handsy-pansy kind of game, many minor more kind of game. What ought to happen in a serious government, if there is no administrator, that should be an immediate priority. So immediate that the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago can call a meeting, a cabinet meeting, and decide, you know what, we are going to move certain or change certain legislation to allow us to temporarily appoint a chief administrator until we fix the issue in service commission. And they look at the next senior person in line, and they will simply appoint that person in line. Yes, we know that Tobago Self Assembly has certain autonomy, but they do not have autonomy that supersedes the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
All
It
right, well,
doesn't have
Mr.
a
Duke, unfortunately, we'll just have to leave it out right there because we are out of time. But I want to thank you so
Thank you so
much
much.
for your opinions on the matters of the day and for being able to have this conversation with us.
Thank you.
All right, viewers, like I said, we are out of time this morning, but thank you for being with us. It certainly was a pleasure, and we will be with you again tomorrow.
60,000 people strong, and the vibes is never